Hi, welcome to Book Babes. I'm Abby.
I'm Annabelle.
I'm Bree.
Erin.
I'm Nicole.
Sadie.
And this month we are talking about The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I forgot that I would have to give a recap at the beginning, so we're just gonna wing this. So it's about a man named Linus who is 40. He's an older man. And he, single, no family, no friends, works a desk job for the department in charge of magical youth. He just goes and checks out all these orphanages for magical children and makes sure that they are, up to par and the kids aren't being abused. And then one day he gets called into the office of extremely upper management, and is given like a super classified assignment, and he gets sent to this orphanage here on this, and he is sent to investigate these six extra special children. And he just spends the book getting to know them and getting to know their caretaker, Arthur, and just everyone who lives there. And that is the spoiler-free synopsis of The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune.
So I enjoyed it. I thought it was adorable, and it reminded me of when we read, what was the one? God, my brain is blanking with the teacups, and we all really liked
Yes.
it except Abby.
Oh,
Crescent-
Tress of the Emerald Sea.
Thank you, that
I
one.
even
And it's
texted, I
funny
was
because
like-
they both are sea and color in the titles.
Yep. I
No,
even
they were
texted
a lot
early
alike
on,
for like the beginning.
yeah. I
And, like,
remember texting pretty early on and being like, if you like Tress, you're gonna love this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was
I didn't have any like strong opinions on it though, besides it being cute. So
Yeah. It
I
was
have a
cute.
few, but they're mostly positive.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
I have a yeah, mostly positive, but there's like one thing that bothered me at one point in the book that I like kind of internally went off on.
was it the tree?
Yeah, I was about to ask.
Not this time.
There was a tree in this. They talked about a tree at one point.
Uh-huh. But it wasn't the tree. Not this time.
That's the problem.
What was it?
Okay, well, let me pull it up. Wait, do we want to give like a little
Oh, the spoiler.
Oh, yes.
Spoiler.
Spoilers. There will be spoilers. We will be discussing spoilers, no holding back.
yeah,
Like,
spoilers, all of it.
Let's give a warning before we get into like the controversy too, because I personally think that I would have approached this book and read this book differently if I knew about the controversy beforehand. So I think before we talk about, we should do
Yeah.
this and then talk about the controversy after and give a warning then.
yes.
Yeah. I agree.
Sounds good.
But like it was one of the points where they're in Arthur's bedroom and they're having like a conversation about
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I
Thank
think.
you.
Yeah.
they're having
I
like a
think I know.
philosophical conversation.
I don't
And
remember.
I
Um,
skipped past that. I skimmed it, dude. I barely even remember what they were talking about. I got the main point out of it and moved on.
mhm.
Philosophy is not my thing. No offense, Steve. Um,
Philosophy's weird. It can be really fun and it can be like, oh my God, who cares?
yeah.
Yeah. It's, yeah.
Here we go. Okay, so Arthur's argument was like, they're having this discussion and it's like Arthur shook his head. These children aren't animals. You aren't on a safari with binoculars watching them from a distance. Okay, yeah. How are you supposed to evaluate children if you don't even take the time to know them? They're people, Linus, even if some of them look different. Now, so the argument here was that he can't assess the situation while being a unbiased observer. Like that was Arthur's argument, was like, you can't assess what's going on here if you're unbiased and you're unwilling to get to know these kids. And it's like, no, actually, that's kind of the point. Like, I mean, yeah, he
Yeah.
can still get to know the kids and be unbiased. And so what I wrote in my notes was, as someone who's homeschooled, this is a very homeschooled argument. The idea here is that unbiased is uncaring or distant, when in fact it's about an outside party observing the state of things without bias. And then Linus was like, I never suggested such a thing. So it's getting to my next point. And Arthur's like, that I apologize, that was an oversimplification. I've dealt with prejudice for a long time. I have to remind myself that everybody thinks that way. My point is, you did something remarkable for a boy who came to us only used to derision. He listened to you, Linus. He learned from you, and it was a lesson he needed to be taught. I don't think he could have asked for a better teacher in that regard. And I said, no, the point you need to be making is that helping a kid in a way you know to help doesn't create a bias. Because like the argument that, okay, go back outside, buddy. Sorry. The argument that they're having is that, you know, Linus has it stuck in his head that to be unbiased is to be outside of the situation and completely uncaring, which is not the case. To be unbiased is to look at the situation as a whole and not, you know, like
Let the
allow
emotion.
yourself, yeah, you're looking at the actual facts of the situation and not allowing your emotions to get in the way. His emotions aren't going to get in the way by caring about these kids.
That's like his whole
so
job.
I kind of wanted to touch on this a little bit, because I think a lot of writers do it unintentionally. Linus comes off as ASD to me in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
He has a lot of ASD traits, and I think that's one of the things that really kind of like grinds in and really made me feel like he might be ASD, and that's the fact that he took that literally. He didn't understand that he needs to be biased in his reporting. He needs to be biased in the way that he assesses the situation. That doesn't mean he can't care about the children. And I feel like his attachment to the rules and regulations book and everything else, that's just very like ASD coded to me in a lot of ways. And I really liked that. I got really attached to his character when I started like seeing those traits.
Right. Well, I mean, it's like that one of the things that I struggled with the most with learning music was that there was never like this is why it's like this. It's always, well, they made this decision a long time ago and we just stick with it. And I'm like, okay, but why was the decision made? So it's like that kind of same thing. Like I need lists and decisions and explanations for those decisions, and why do we base our system around a circle of fifths?
Yeah.
You know,
Because as an autistic person before, like you're not given the answers and you're just expected to like do exactly by the rule book. When I was younger, used to like cling to people's words because it became a defense mechanism to me. So I'd take people at their word, and there were moments where I was really misled because of that. And with that, taking things as literally as I did and taking things as, oh, things need to be done this way for like XYZ, and not having like the thought to explore it for myself and ask the why questions anymore, because how many times I was not allowed to ask those questions. It really like stifled a lot of my like work ethic in a lot of ways, and like it stifled my skills at the stuff that I was working at. It just leads to the being literal thing again. Like
Yeah, and I think they imply that like his like attachment to the book and like the unwavering like whatever is like exactly why he was selected, because they thought, oh, he's not gonna get attached, and like he's gonna be like, well, I don't like Arthur, so we're gonna get this place shut down. Like I think they expected that from him, and
it was
then
very obvious towards the end that it was a grudge match. Very obvious.
yeah.
Some
I
bitter
feel like it was obvious right from the get-go, like right from the point where all of the other extremely upper management left, and what's his face was still there, Wells or whatever his name was still there.
Werner, Charles Werner.
And he's just like, don't trust him. Like, you're trying to send him in there with a bias. It's very clear. You're trying to send him in there with a bias against Arthur.
And like purposefully like not including everything in the file and like all that jazz of like,
yeah,
they're sending him in with an outcome in mind.
Yeah, they're sending him in without all the information intentionally.
Mhm.
And they
Mhm.
clearly saved Arthur's file to try and like, you know, that last hurrah,
Nail in the
trying
coffin
to
sort of thing.
see
Mhm.
you can't trust him.
Yeah, we hid this from you for your own benefit so that you were unbiased and not afraid
Right.
of being there. But now we feel it's necessary for you to see it. That's how that came off when it was presented.
Absolutely.
It was
Um,
like as if his file was put as like a failsafe, I guess, in case he did get attached to be like, hey, look, he's lying to you.
Mhm.
Like, don't trust this guy type situation.
yeah.
So they omitted it as a failsafe.
I agree with that. Yeah,
It
absolutely.
also kind of feels as though like they really were trying to set Arthur up to fail in a lot of ways. Like the only reasons why the files should be that thin is because they collected almost no info on these children before sending them to him. So, and I feel like him not having like the resources of those files and like having to start from like just innate knowledge and like assumptions about these children coming into his care, they were trying to set him up for failure from the
Yeah.
beginning.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Especially since they omitted Arthur's and not the Antichrist.
Yeah.
Like the reason
And they
did
had the Antichrist
the
file on
Antichrist.
top.
Exactly. It was
This
literally
is the
put on
most
top.
important one. Look at it first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's literally put on there to freak him out to be like, he shouldn't even be alive.
I have a question. Were any of you able to pick a favorite child?
I
It was
really Chauncey is just
He's so cute.
he's just so
probably
cute.
Chauncey or Lucy was good in his own way.
They were
But
also
yeah,
I'm gonna say-
Chauncey or Sal, I think it was. That
the
was
super
the
quiet one.
I love them all so much. It's between Talia and Lucy.
Same
I
for
think
me.
it's Talia. Yeah.
I think I'm
Just
leaning more towards Lucy, but
there's one specific part that leaned it towards Talia more for me, but it's like at the end, so I don't want to get into it until we've talked about some of the previous stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, mine's either Chauncey or Sal. I wanted to give Sal a hug.
Right. Sal
Oh,
was
he
such a
deserved
poor
it.
baby.
You
I
just need
really
to
liked
pick one.
it was between Theodore and Chauncey for me.
Theodore's a cutie.
Yeah,
Okay.
Theodore's great.
The button. I wanted to point out like a really overarching thing that I really liked about this book. The author obviously uses like color, like there's plenty of descriptor words that mentions color, but there are moments where it feels like he specifically like placed color as an emphasis and it evoked a feeling over anything else. And I think it's just the way that like he formed some of these sentences that made it like highlight it in that. But like when he was talking about like orange with Arthur and stuff, like it was placed there to evoke like a feeling. And then it at the end to the cerulean eyes of like the Yeti child, like
Yeah.
it the use of color in this book was just really well done, and it kind of just like it kept coming into my brain whenever like there was like a huge like drastic use of color. But it felt more of like a drop, like a little like seasoning on like on the description a
Yeah.
little bit with some of the stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really liked that.
Yeah.
I agree. I think he, no pun intended, used some really colorful language. Just like flowery, colorful, like I don't know, it just he was really, really good at like showing and not telling, and I really appreciated that. But it wasn't in a way that was like
Interesting.
yeah, it was in a way that was interesting and it wasn't like a showing, not telling for the purpose, not for the purpose of showing. But you know the words I'm trying to say, I just can't get them out.
Yeah. I feel
just
like it's the prose
yes.
is what was lacking in What the River Knows. Because it's
Yes.
like they tried to do all this pretty descriptive stuff, but the prose wasn't good. It was cool stuff, but she did not the best job at describing it in an engaging way, whereas he did a fabulous job.
I would agree 100% with that. 100%.
Yeah, I think I've realized that like in this one, in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and in Tress, I really like when they write in a way as if it's like not quite their diary, but like they're talking to the book,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
guess in a way. So it's like it's comforting because it's like you're being talked to and told a story instead of like you reading a story
Yeah,
in a
well, and
way.
it's also like, especially with Tress, it was really nice to have those like interjections of like, I know I was embarrassing. Like,
Yeah, definitely. That definitely made it more like you were being told the story.
yeah,
Making the
So
comedic
that's probably
relief
why I like it.
character. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Making the comedic relief character the narrator was honestly a master's touch in Tress.
yeah.
Oh yeah. But anyway, listen to
Like,
our meeting about that one to hear more about our thoughts on Tress. Moving on
Yes.
about this book before
This
we just
book
go on a tangent.
heals a
Um,
reading slump in me. Like I have actually been reading. It's crazy, guys. Wow.
I have a few parts that I like really liked that I wanted to mention. Um, I'm gonna narrow it down to two because I had like six or
All of
seven.
them. The whole
I'm gonna
book.
narrow it to down to what made Talia my favorite of the children, and the part that made me start crying. And I don't know if it just like hit me like at like the right moment of when I was like really depressed, but it hit me and I just started crying. The Talia one first, obviously. It's the part where he comes back and she's the first one that he like sees because Calliope goes like running over to her, and it's her like she's sitting there crying because he's back, like, and she goes, I'm going to bury you right here, she sobbed. I'm digging your grave just so you know. And then he's like, well, like, I have to go talk to the others and like others and stuff like that. And it says, she sniffled, perhaps, but if I don't like what I hear, we're coming right back here and you'll climb inside the hole without arguing.
I also love the little prologue where it mentions the fact that she still hasn't filled in the grave.
Yeah. I love her so much.
Or
Her
the
and Lucy were just like a pair. I was so when it got to the point where they were dividing the kids up, I was like, "Oh my God, this is gonna be so chaotic. I'm so excited."
Okay, but yes, but also I just the scene, the duology of the scenes, okay? The scene with her in the bookshop having like this heartwarming, or not the bookshop, the thank you,
The
The
garden
garden
shop.
store.
BLT.
Ooh.
The the garden shop, yeah, the hardware store. The scene with her in the hardware store with this like heartwarming moment with the
Mm-mm.
hardware store owner, who later
Mhm.
turned out to be the mayor. Yeah, what the fuck?
Oh,
Because like that's crazy.
That was so heartwarming and sweet. And then you got the flip side with Lucy of like this guy
Lucy and
trying
the
to fucking
stoner.
exercise
Lucy and
him.
Stoner was great, and then boom, he's trying to be exercised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
He all he did was react and throw the guy against the wall, and he's like, whatever, it's another day. And he continues going. The guy's knocked out, and he's like, I want to look at these records.
I just thought it was perfect that it was like a stoner was the one to accept him first.
I love,
That's
love, love, love J-Bone.
awesome.
He's
Oh
my
my God.
favorite
Yeah.
character in the entire book is J-Bone.
Yep.
I
identify with
wanted
that man.
I wanted to touch on one thing about that scene. It was already there. Like I feel like the entire book was like little sprinklings of like queer acceptance and
Mm.
like accepting yourself as queer and stuff. Like that was such an overall like prevailing theme of the book. But the moment in which like someone pulled out a cross on Lucy, it really just brought that theme like straight into the forefront. Because
Absolutely.
I do not know a single queer person that hasn't experienced something at the hands of like a deeply religious person who is religious for the wrong reasons and who expresses their religion like in horrible ways. And having the Antichrist literally be like that anchor point that kind of like makes it really jarring because like for most of it that it's like an analogy for queerness and queer acceptance, like just that. So when it's so like thrust in your face to a point of where someone cornered a child in a locked room and started holding out a cross
Yeah.
to him and trying to exorcise him. Like it really just like kind of like grounds you into the story and like everything else and doesn't have that fourth wall break, but at the same time when you like stop reading it after you've gone through that scene, you're just like, wow. Like
No, it was that I definitely teared up reading that, but another moment I know someone else mentioned like, oh, a moment that made me cry was when he was leaving. I was like in tears. I was babysitting, the kid was asleep. I'm sitting on the couch just in tears. The parents come home. I'm like, this is really awkward, but crying on your couch right now.
Yeah,
You
his,
know, the ending was very heartwarming.
it was in the going away party. God.
Mhm.
For
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
me,
the going away party, I would have immediately folded. I would have been like,
Would've been like, I'm not
same.
leaving.
I was tearing
Yeah.
up at
oh,
that part.
difficult.
I had like lots of parts where like I was kind of like tearing up. The part that made me sob was when they were in the cellar and they were going over like they had
Yes.
just finished going over like Arthur's backstory. And it's it says like we'll have to make sure your last week here on the island is one you'll never forget. He started to turn but then pause. I promise you, the thought of using you for anything has never crossed my mind. You're too precious to put into words. I think it's like one of Theodore's buttons. If you asked him why he cared about them so, he would tell you it's because they exist at all. That broke me. I literally started sobbing. I was in my bath. I was taking a bubble bath and I just start sobbing. And my freaking partner comes in and is like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just really emotional about
You're
this."
like, not really, but yeah.
Yes, in a way that's not.
I think like touching on the going away party thing, like it was especially heartwarming because I was talking to Sadie about this for a while. Um it was one of those moments where like for Linus that's a core memory of his that he's gonna like always cherish and hold dear to him. And like as he's experiencing it, you can feel that like he doesn't want it to end and he knows it's gonna end. And there's like this kind of bittersweet like feeling looming over it, Um, I don't know, like just the way that entire scene was written to me, like was super relatable. I think it's relatable for a lot of people, but it was really well done.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, when that going away party happened, I was like half like, yeah, stay, and the other half was like, but like the other children that need you.
Yeah.
Because like
Mhm.
from what it sounded like, he was the only good one.
Yeah.
Because he actually cared about the well-being and like cared about the kids more than the job, I guess. Or you know what I'm trying to say, but like I was like, yeah, I want him to stay because obviously it's the book. But like in reality, I was like, you need to go back to your job. You're the only ones who are like actually helping these kids in the way they need to be helped and actually caring more than like all the others.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah,
it was really nice that like at the end he actually did do more and like he was like, yeah, I'm leaving because this ain't my home no more. I can't do this anymore. Like this is a flawed system, blah blah.
Mhm.
And that he actually made the effort to grab the other files and help kids as he was going, or like going
Yeah.
to help kids and
Mhm.
all this. So like the way it ended really gave me that both halves and met him in the middle.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, because I mean, I didn't want him to leave the island, but at the same time, it was like this awkward feeling of like, but if you don't leave the island, then what's gonna happen? Like that's what I kept thinking the entire time.
Yeah.
You can't just stay because these kids are like their existence basically is riding on what you turn in about them. And so if you don't go back, like it's
They're
a
just gonna send another one.
Yep.
yeah, well that, or maybe they'll just be like, oh, he didn't even come back. He didn't even bother to come back. Well, we're just gonna close this down. Like
Yeah.
obviously it's too dangerous if he doesn't even return.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like it would have given them an excuse to shut it down,
Yeah.
No, the author did a really good job about wrapping it up and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he actually didn't leave any like strings or whatever, and like made it so it wasn't like a okay, yeah, your story's happy. What about everyone else? Like,
Hmm.
and there wasn't any like at the end, well, but like that doesn't quite make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So he
I
did a
think
good job about doing that.
I think that the duality of him at the very beginning, like going, oh, well, once I handed my recommendation, it's over my head, to him literally stealing files of children and becoming a whistleblower and getting the entire extremely upper management fired was huge character development.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Beautiful
absolutely.
character development. Like
Speaking of character development, I know I mentioned this to y'all, but the one thing that it wasn't like it didn't bother me. It just he he is throughout the whole book described by his weight and by being overweight, and he very obviously has a very unhealthy relationship with food. He's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna have a salad because I can't eat anything else because I'm so fat. Like I can't eat anything else. Like this is all I can eat." And like even in front of the kids, he won't eat. And it's implied by the end he's kind of healed that relationship, but there's no throughout the book, like no one points out to him, hey, that's unhealthy. Like it just kind of felt like, oh, magic, he's healthy now. Which like obviously like he wasn't like unhealthy at his size before, but like his eating behaviors were, and it felt a little bit easy, I guess. But like it
There
wasn't like
was
fair.
there
yeah.
was a point where Talia, I think Talia's the
She said
gnome
it
one,
multiple
right?
times. Yeah, she
Yeah,
said it
she
multiple
talks about how
times.
she's round, and that
Yeah,
does that
Us
mean
round
that
people
I'm
have to
bad
yeah.
and stuff
Yeah.
like. So I think that's in a way the author's way of like kind of
Yeah.
hinting at like, oh hey, this is him trying to change his mindset
There was
Mhm.
Like
another
situation, but
part.
without actually, because like there was so
Yeah.
many other like underlying things going on in this book.
Yeah.
He probably
oh
didn't
that
want to add a whole other underlying thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It just felt so big and so important that it was like, why are we just gonna like, and like obviously like the stuff with Talia, like I wish it could have been more explicit in the, if Talia sees herself this way and is like proud of herself for the way she is, like why shouldn't I be? Instead, he's like, well, it's different. Like it's fine. Like it's different. It's
Yeah.
okay.
yeah.
That was just kind of where I was with
There
it.
was that part like at the end though where he was returning to his desk after talking to extremely upper management where he like explicitly mentioned the fact that he didn't apologize a single time for bumping into
Yeah.
anyone's desks. He did not apologize for taking space up
Yeah.
Mhm.
for his own like person, and that to me feels like it was a little bit of development, but at the same time I
Yeah.
understand why like that does feel a little under the radar compared to like a lot of other things that were really on the nose with it.
There was
Mhm.
Like
one
also,
other thing too.
I
I'm
feel
sorry,
like
Annie.
oh no, yeah, I feel like at the end, still relating to that, the weight thing. It was like at the end, I feel like I remember reading something where he was thinking about how like, yeah, he's lost weight, but he also doesn't care anymore.
Mhm.
Like there was something kind of like that in the
Yeah,
end.
like I said, they allude to it, but they don't like I would
Outright.
be, yeah, I would be less, it would be less of a thing for me, and it's barely a thing. I'm just trying to nitpick at this point because I really did enjoy this book. It just was like, if you're gonna make this such a big part of his character, you can't just like, oh, it's changed.
Sometimes
Congrats.
these things do just resolve though. Like if
Yeah,
your
and I mean,
circumstances change,
yeah,
like
it just, yeah, like
yeah,
I
you're
said,
just
I'm
good.
nitpicking. Like it's
Yeah.
not really that big of a thing for me, but yeah.
Aaron's been trying to say something for a
Yes,
bit.
but Aaron,
Yes, Aaron.
Oh, honestly, I forgot.
Oh
But thank
no.
you.
Something else
So
about the weight.
no, it was there was this point where like he wasn't feeling well before he was about to like remember when he found out about Arthur and they were eating and then he wasn't like eating anything and Sal was really worried. He's like, well, you have to eat. And like I think that was kind of maybe not a little bit like acknowledging it was acknowledging obviously like his unhealthy relationship with food and also like the way he was acting during that.
Mhm.
It was kind of like a tiny nod, I think, to
Yeah.
that. You know.
And the same vein, I think like the first time they had dinner, like he's like,
Mhm.
oh, I'll just have a salad or whatever. And
Yeah.
one of them said something about like, why? Like that's dumb. Don't do that.
Yeah.
So it's like I think in like kid language, I think that
Yeah.
was like the way of being like, hey, that's unhealthy.
Yeah.
But like I feel to your point, they did make it a big deal that like, oh, he's doesn't like the way he looks and all this. And then with everything else being on the nose, you'd think that they'd make that on the nose as
Yeah,
well.
like with the
Yeah.
how big of a deal they made it, I thought maybe they'd make the same like level of big deal, and it was like this is how upset he's about his weight, and this is like how they resolved it. I thought it'd be more balanced, but like I said, nitpicking. I am not
Mhm.
that angry about it. I really
Yeah.
like this book.
The only thing with that I think I would disagree with you about is just that I feel like with his weight, he did that subtle thing of it just mattered less and less as the book went on. And I feel
Yeah,
like he did a good
valid.
job of showing that. So I feel like it wasn't so much that they ignored it at the end, it's just that
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I also am not a very close reader, so there's probably stuff that I missed, that I was just like, oh, yeah. And yeah, I agree. There was definitely like the gradual, like, oh, like, and obviously he's happier in general, like he's gonna have a better relationship with food. Like that's, but yeah,
Yeah.
nitpicking.
Well, and also, I mean, he's somewhere where he doesn't have a bunch of doctors telling him that he's fat and he needs to stop eating.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I mean, I'm not kidding when I tell you that doctors do that.
No,
Yeah.
they do.
When I was pregnant
100%.
with Mikey, I had they told me to only eat salads and don't use any seasonings or any like dressing or anything because that's gonna make me fat.
On the
Okay.
island, he's also not like forced to be in a position where he's taking up too much space anymore, too.
Yeah.
Speaking of
And
food,
it's a more physical life. But
Do we want to move on to the controversy?
Yeah,
Hmm.
probably.
Does anyone else have anything they want to discuss?
I don't think so.
No,
I
not really.
love the
Like
book.
I said before, I didn't have a lot of strong points with this book. It was just kind of like a cozy little book, I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't think too deeply about it. I just enjoyed it and it was
Yeah.
like, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
All of my notes were like, I want to adopt all of these children now, please.
Yeah.
And that was
I
it.
knew there was a controversy. I just didn't look it up beforehand because I
I
didn't want it to affect me.
unfortunately
Does someone-
did.
Okay, so who wants to say the warning? Probably someone who knows more about what's happening.
Yes.
Sadie, I
Um,
feel like
Yeah,
or
I
somebody.
have my notes pulled up.
Okay, yeah.
So, so the controversy is a mixture of people feeling as though the author is culturally appropriating the story, a story that isn't his to tell because he does not belong to those affected directly by the real life historical occurrence, and also that he's profiteering off of the genocide of indigenous people. And the reasoning for this is that in an interview he stated, and I have the quote right here, the inspiration for the novel remained fuzzy until I stumbled across the 60s scoop, something I've never heard of before, something I'd never been taught in school. I'm American, by the way. In Canada, beginning in the 1950s and continuing through the 1980s, Indigenous children were taken from their homes and families and placed into government-sanctioned facilities such as residential schools. The goal was for primarily white middle-class families across Canada, the US, and even Europe to adopt these children. It's estimated that over 20,000 Indigenous children were taken, and it wasn't until 2017 that the families of those affected reached a financial settlement with the Canadian government totaling over $800 million. So he stated that he got like a base inspiration from the way that these schools were run. He later said he didn't want to like co-opt the story. He doesn't think that it was his place to like have native voices in the book. And the thing about that is there are no native voices in the book. There's no mention of native culture in the book. From my understanding of it, it seems more like he took the government run facilities as a structure, as a way to like structure the story that he already had planned.
Yeah.
Now a lot of the posts about it, a lot of the discourse about it is centered around a very specific thing, which is most people that haven't read this book are claiming that the children are abducted from parents. And that is not the case. All of the children are orphaned. These are orphanages in the book. So the argument that he is basing it off of some real life tragedy that happened, just does not meet up with what the book actually contains, in my opinion.
Also, like there's no, like, in the book there's no assumption that anyone is going to ever adopt these kids. These are unwanted children by the vast majority of society.
Like it's a book.
And reading the book, for me, from my perspective, reading the book felt very much more like a general comment on racism and sexism and homophobia. It was a comment on, I don't know what that is, so I'm scared of it.
Yeah.
And
And
how
otherness.
everyday
Yeah,
quote, unquote,
otherness.
normal society treats people that they deem different. That's what it felt like to me.
I fully
Yeah.
agree.
I just feel like I understand that because he said that, that's why it's being brought up. But the idea that, oh, I saw this thing about a tragedy that happened, and so yeah, state-run orphanage. It's just not that specific.
Yeah.
And I feel like there was no apologizing for these schools and the people who ran them. It's very clear Arthur was abnormal because he really loved the children.
Yeah.
I
was
I
a
mean,
oh, go
I'm
ahead, sorry.
super white, and far be it for me to speak for anyone else, but sometimes it's not that deep. I don't know. Like, I'm sorry. Here's my controversial, most boomer take. Sometimes it's not that deep.
Also,
It's not. I
as
don't
a
know.
non-white person whose
Yeah.
bonus mom was in one of those orphanages, one of those schools, because she was stolen from her family for 9 months out of the year to be taught true Christian values and how to be a white person. There is no comparison. Absolutely whatsoever. There is no comparison. She was beaten if she was seen speaking to her siblings. She was beaten if she was seen using her own language. And then on top of that, she watched other girls just kind of disappear. And now, whatever, 60 years later, we're finding out that those girls that disappeared were raped by the teachers of the orphanage, and when they became pregnant they had to get rid of them, and so they're buried on the property where the orphanages were. There is absolutely no comparison to the atrocities that happened there in this book. This book is just, a heartwarming book about getting over prejudices. The atrocities that happened to the Indigenous people of Canada, especially, but also the United States, there's no comparison.
Yeah.
I know that I said this in our chat, but I do really think that this is like an apt comparison. It would be like getting mad at the author of The Boy in the Striped Pajamas for writing it as a like ex-Catholic person and not as a Jewish person. I don't know if you guys know The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. So it's basically there's a little boy and he has like this property and he one day like explores, and I haven't read this book in years, so I might be like not summarizing it exactly correct. But he goes to like the fence line of his property and there's another boy there that's in striped pajamas, and they start meeting every day and playing through the fence and a bunch of other stuff. And then the little boy outside on the other side like goes in to play with the boy in the striped pajamas across the fence, and then they get basically like yelled at, shuffled in, pushed in with a bunch of adults into a building, and the building is a gas chamber because it was a concentration camp. This is a heartwarming story that if you don't know the premise of it, you are just shocked by the ending of it. And there's a movie attached. The movie was also like really intense. But the author is not Jewish. They are ex-Catholic, and I'm pretty sure that they might not identify with their religion now. But it's the same thing. And the thing here is the author of The Boy in the Striped Pajamas actually did speak on a genocide that of people that he did not necessarily belong to, if I'm not mistaken. But there's so many other like more egregious examples of people actually doing that for bad reasons. And like The Boy in the Striped Pajamas is not a bad reason. And The House in the Cerulean Sea, like he did not tell that story. He got the base concept of a government run facility and was like, wait, that kind of works for the idea that I have, and went with that.
Yeah.
He in no way tried to tell a Native person's story.
Well, he could have been describing any foster home. That's the
Truly.
thing. Like if you just had read it and not know the controversy, sadly I did. So like I told Sadie, do not look at the controversy before you read this. It's gonna
You
ruin.
told all of us, and I was
Yeah.
like, won't do
Like
it.
just don't do it. Because like it kind of, I was picking up stuff as it was going, but it again, nothing was so significant that it was for sure pointing this out. It could have been any foster home.
It could have
in
been
the
Annie.
US.
I just, yeah. I don't know. There are times too when people mean well and they're insensitive or they're doing it incorrectly. And this wasn't even that. I really feel like it's such a stretch to say if he hadn't specified, I watched this, then you would never get that from there. He's
No.
not profiting off of a tragedy. It's like
Well,
exactly like you said, like a foster home. That's all I thought this was.
It's like the same kind of thing as like I started writing a book like a year ago after we read one of those books that we didn't like, and we were like, we could make it better, and I started writing it, and I made the main character mixed race, African American and white, and I messaged you guys and I was like, is this okay? I feel like I can't really comment on the Black existence. And you guys were like, well, I mean, maybe it would be better to go with half Latino since you are. And I was like, that's a great idea. Like literally, if you're writing a book about a race that you are not involved in, and you feel like, you should just ask someone. Just ask. Like if there's something that you wrote that you're trying to make a comment on and you're worried that it might cause an issue, you ask your Black friends and you say, hey, is this problematic? Like, is there anything you want to add or change or tell me just to not do it? That's it. That's all it takes.
Especially if it's the main character or if the race is one of the plot points.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like you can have a main character that is Black, but then Black has nothing to do with the plot point. That's just what they look like.
Yeah.
And that's not problematic whatsoever.
That's representation.
Yeah, that's just you trying to represent them.
Yeah. And
like that's it.
Those writers, they just need a meaner editor.
Yeah.
They sure do. Yeah. And I would say be careful saying like, oh, it's just representation, because I feel like, and I say this as like, I'm real white, guys. I'm real white. Sometimes it can toe the line of, and this is all from what I've heard from other people, just so much of who people are is the race they're born and the race they grow up in. And so I feel like there's certain experiences that you might not be able to write. It's sometimes feel like a white person might not authentically be able to write a Black person, regardless of whether or not their race is like a plot point kind of thing.
Yeah.
No, I see that point. And no, I think definitely like if you're not that race, maybe not make your main character that race. Because then you're gonna have internal like thoughts and stuff like that.
Or if you're going to, like
Do a lot
Annie
of
was saying,
research.
ask people that actually have experience being
I
that
mean-
race. And furthermore, like something that you could do is you can, I know plenty of writers that go on like Fiverr or whatever and like look for people, find an editor of that race and
Mhm.
specifically ask, I'm white. I don't know if I'm doing this justice and I don't know if I'm overstepping anything. Can I pay you to read this with that in mind?
Yeah,
And-
that's the other thing. If you're asking your Black friends these questions and you're planning to publish this and make money from it, you need to offer to pay them for their time.
100%.
Any friends,
Hmm.
your Latino friends, if you're a Black author and you're asking your white friends, again,
Because
that's the thing. Everybody
you
deserves to be
also-
paid for their time, even if they're your friend.
that is a type of labor that even if they are your friend, you should know that it takes a lot out of them mentally to think about that sort of thing and to put themselves in a position where they're remembering how they have been marginalized and affected by marginalization.
And also you're putting them in a position to speak for the entirety of that community.
Yes.
And you also need to be prepared for them to say no, both to the idea of editing that, but also no, you shouldn't be writing this. Like you're
Yeah.
like I read it,
Mhm.
you're a great writer. You need to change your concept. This isn't working.
Mhm.
Like you need to be open to that criticism. You can't just be like, oh well, I don't
Yeah,
like
if you're gonna do that, then we shouldn't be buying your books.
Yep.
And we won't. Just FYI.
I think it was a really solid book.
Agreed.
Honestly, like 5 out of 5 for me. Like the very beginning was harder to get through, but I think it's because we've all kind of experienced that like droll, like corporate-esque or just like repetitive like work
Yeah.
experience and work day. And honestly, like Linus's like life at the very beginning of the book is really depressing. He's not depressed. He's certain that he's not depressed. He's convinced himself that he's not depressed.
I am
But
not
the
depressed.
first 4 chapters of the book were really depressing and hard for me to get through. But I knew the moment I got to the children.
Ladies and gentlemen, our
Freaking
next
children.
book,
He just
or
wanted
our
to be
next
bellhop.
will be I am not depressed.
I am not depressed.
Yeah, I don't know. I gave it a 3.5, and while I like really enjoyed like the plot and everything and the writing, something about it, I didn't keep thinking about it. I would always have to force myself to keep reading it. I don't know if it was my mood, if it was like what was going on, like I was stressed out about other things. I don't know, but it was literally be sitting right next to me and I'd be like, do I really want to read that right now? So I don't know. I'm a huge mood reader, so it could have just been that.
Yeah.
Because like recently I've been reading a lot more sci-fi stuff, especially V.E. Schwab, but we'll talk about that when we get to the what have we been reading. But so I don't know if it was just like a mood thing, but I had to convince myself to pick up the book and continue reading. So I gave it a 3.5 because it wasn't quite 4-star, but it wasn't a bad book, so I didn't give it 3. So
What
I gave it
people rate?
4.5 because I really liked it. It was really cute. It was very heartwarming. It is definitely something I will read to my children. What happened to my hair? So I think the only reason it lost half a star was just because it wasn't like gripping. I need to know what happens next. It was cozy and comforting, and I read it while we were camping, which was great, but I feel like I would have enjoyed it a lot more if it had been like late fall or midwinter and it was cold outside and I had the fireplace going and a cup of tea in my hand.
Yep.
Everything's better under those circumstances.
That's true. But anyway, so it lost half a star because it was the wrong season.
As it goes, as it goes. If you remember last year, I had that. Oh, what one was it? It was the fake guide to dating a demon or something. I think like I think
Yeah.
I think I had it at the wrong time. I
Mm.
did not enjoy that book, but I think under other circumstances I would have enjoyed that book.
See, I
It
remember
was just okay.
the first half of it, and then the second half was like, is this ever gonna end?
I don't think I
Yeah,
ever
and then there's
read
a sequel, and the sequel's about the abuser of the demon from I'm getting ahead of it. Yeah, the first one is about the demon that abused the demon love interest from the first book getting
Mhm.
with her best friend.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what the second book. I literally was like, oh, I'm gonna have to like listen to this next book, and then I read what it was, and I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
I think I
I
remember you bringing that up at one point. We were all freaking out about it. I think it was right after we read the book.
I do think it's an
Well, most of
amnesia
us read the book.
storyline.
It is an amnesia. He doesn't remember all the bad things that he did, and now he's gonna change because he's an amnesiac. I'm sorry.
I don't like that at all. That's
No, thank you.
Okay,
I'm sad.
No one here read True Blood and was really into the book where Eric gets amnesia.
Talk
I know
about a
I haven't
telenovela.
touched True Blood since like the series ended. I haven't reread it or like anything, but
I watched a
yeah.
couple of episodes of it, but like,
The books are better.
Mhm.
Aren't
As
they
ever.
always?
Yeah.
The books are better except for one thing, and that's Lafayette.
I have like 150 books
right.
on my shelf in my bedroom waiting to be read. Stop giving me Rex.
Never. You never read the ones I give you anyway.
Well, it's
I read
because
a
I gave
couple
her
of
way
them.
too many before.
I read
I
like
have been
half of
recommending
the
books to
Alien
this girl
porn
since we were
series.
like 16.
I read like half of the Alien porn series, and you know what? I finally
Wait,
finished.
which one?
The one
Okay,
on
there's the new
Alien
t-shirt.
with
You'll have
the
alien porn as the
topless.
picture, and then just which one.
Yeah.
The Ice
So
Queen
I
and the
read that
How do you
alien
put
porn
that as
book.
a
Which
picture?
one?
Alien porn? Question mark? Which
the
one?
humans getting abducted from Earth.
Again.
Which one?
Ice Planet Barbarians? The ones in the
Yeah.
Ice Planet Barbarians. Oh, okay.
I need to
read
read
no,
that
the
one.
first book.
No,
I've heard
They're
so
the-
much
fun.
about
They're
the
great.
Ice Barbarians.
No,
I read
it was
those before they were cool.
the I don't know. You recommended it to me last June.
Which
Nicole
one?
will legit recommend me books, and every single time I'm like, yes, yes, yes. Like I read them all.
Who hasn't rated the
I have
house?
not.
No, me neither.
I gave
Me
it
neither.
5. And I think the majority of the reason I gave it 5 stars was because it like I said earlier, it like healed my reading slump. I read 2 whole other books last month, guys. Well, okay, I finished the second one this month, but like
Yay.
so I think otherwise I would have probably rated it a 4, maybe a 4.5, but I think just healing that slump kind of pushed it over for me.
Yeah, do you know how many times I had to yell read to Abby?
It's so bad, guys. It's so bad. But we're doing better. We're doing so much better.
I think I also gave it 5 stars. I didn't think too deeply about it. Honestly, it was just like, this is really cute. This is great.
Yeah.
Well
See, for
done.
one of me, this is one of the books that I actually want to go back and take extensive notes on because I feel like there's so many different themes that you can like take notes on. Yeah. But I used to take notes as I read. I don't anymore because I realized I don't enjoy half the books, if not more, than I read if I take notes.
Yeah, see, I feel like that's part of the problem I've been having because I've been like taking notes on our book club books, and then like some of them just feel like they're dragging on. And I
Yeah.
think that's probably why I hated like Lark so much.
I honestly am very glad that I read the prologue of that and then went, this was someone's fanfic when they were in high school, and then didn't read the rest of it. I read the prologue and the description of all of the races, and I was like, I don't think I can mentally push myself through this, and I don't want it to affect next month's book. So
See, I read the second book and I still like the series. I want to read the third book. So
I'm sorry. I don't mean to be so mean about
be
it.
in the mindset. It's a
No,
mindset to read those kind of
fair.
fantasy books. And like a lot of the books I read have that kind of style where it's like almost YA, but not.
Yeah, see, and I've had a huge disconnect with like YA and stuff that is YA tropey. In like the last like 5 years, I just like I can't really do YA anymore. And I've
Yeah, so
tried.
the new adult stuff is basically YA with sex.
Mhm.
Like, it's like better written YA with sex. And so, like, recently I've been reading a lot of new adult stuff or like almost new adult stuff. And so that's probably why I like Light Lark so much. And yeah. So it's really, you got to be in a mindset
that
to read.
episode for more of our thoughts.
Yeah.
Refer
I
back.
also rated
back.
it a 5 out of 5.
Hmm.
I just liked it. It was just a good book. I was also kind of like in a reading slump, or I guess listening slump, because I've been listening to stuff mostly.
And then I chimed in and was like, girl, I'm dying. Girl, I'm dying. Girl, there's so much stuff. I like this so much. And then you like binge listened to it in a single day.
Yeah, no, I listened to like half of it in one day, and then I listened to the other half just yesterday, I want to say. I finished like the last 30 minutes this morning.
I didn't even finish it yet. And then we're like, that's funny.
Yeah, it was really
You
good
got
though,
some
like
fresh thoughts then.
super fresh. I really enjoyed it, honestly. It was just really, it was cozy. It was well written. I think it honestly beats out my top favorite book of this year, which was The Dowry of Blood.
Oh, wow.
I wouldn't go that far for me because I loved Dowry
Oh
of
no,
Blood.
It's
was
really
amazing.
close.
But,
It's
like-
really close for me between
They're
those
so
two things.
different.
Exactly.
They are
They're
so different.
that it's
They are.
one of them is Dowry of Blood, and one is the Little House in the Cerulean
just-
Sea.
They're
I
already
just
too
love
totally inside
vampires
you.
too much.
We
you
can
know?
totally compare the Vampire Orgy book to the Orphan
Wholesome
book.
orphan book.
Yeah. No, it's not
That is
even.
definitely going to be an alcohol
Out
based
of
episode.
out
Yeah.
of context quotes, man.
That
Oh
was
my
not
god,
right.
yeah. Vampire Orgy versus Wholesome Orphans.
Again,
Oh,
there
okay.
are two
Another
wolves
shirt.
inside you.
Let's be real, guys. Lucy would win.
Yeah,
Lucy would win.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
I'm okay. My sister is a really good artist, and I just keep thinking of like random out of context quotes that we have during these meetings, and thinking of her like doing like not like animation, but like panel like art to it with like and I just
Please.
We should name our episodes after our favorite random quote from the episode.
Yes.
Oh, here we go. This one is
Oh.
named
A la
Vampire
My Favorite
Orgies
Murder.
versus Wholesome Orphans.
Yeah. By the way, I hope that it didn't come across as like in a weird like Lucy
No,
would
no.
win
No,
that Vampire
no,
Orgy.
no.
Okay, good. Like my potentially autistic side was like,
No, we
Save
got
it.
you.
We got
We
it.
got
yeah.
you.
cool.
But
All right.
also, I think all 6 of us have a potentially autistic side.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's
have
why
had
we get along so well.
Yeah.
Is
I
it
am
the autism or the
untested.
CPTSD?
I'm untested, but I have now had 3 different healthcare professionals tell me that I'm likely ASD.
See, all of my psychologists tell me they can't really tell because it could be the PTSD.
And then
And
there's
that's
me
what
who doesn't get checked.
I literally told that to my therapist. It was like 2 weeks ago. She was like, "Yeah, you exhibit a lot of ASD symptoms." And I was like, "Yeah, and like my life has improved since I started treating myself like I have ASD, but I also know I have CPTSD, and it could just be that." So
Yeah, no.
Have like
A few
ADHD, so a lot of the stuff that I'm like, that's a little autistic is also
Right.
very ADHD. Like I told my
few-
doctor, who has been my doctor since like infancy, that I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I have ADHD, and she went, oh yeah, that explains a lot of things. And I was like, thanks.
She's like, girl, have we not talked about this? Like,
a few years ago, I asked my doctor if I could get tested for ADHD, and she said, I mean, you can, but I don't think it's a good idea because a lot of those symptoms can be carried over by PTSD.
Oh, see, because
So it's
my
like-
doctor said the same thing, except she was like, except it's probably not a good idea because some people see their ADHD as their superpower, and we wouldn't want you to get medicated and for you to lose that superpower. And I was like,
Ev-
That's so
Ever
weird.
since I got medicated for my ADHD, my life has improved. Like
Same.
tenfold. I can
Right.
read again. I literally when I first started taking my ADHD medication, I sat down and Carrie, I read Carrie in one sitting, and it's the first time that I've read a book in one sitting since freaking high school. Like
Hey, go you,
Yeah.
dude. Round of
No,
applause
Somebody
for
like
should get
that.
through
medicated. Oh
that
my God.
sentiment, that sentiment bothers me so much because there's so much negative stigma about being medicated. It took me until I had a child and like went into a manic episode and then came out of it and then realized my mental health is really bad. I hate feeling like this. I should get medicated. It took me until I was almost 30 to be on medication. And it should never take people that long if it's something that would improve their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
also say it's really improved mine, like a
Yeah,
lot.
like I'd like to be able to get out of bed to shower. Like I'll
Yep.
just sit there on my phone and be like, I
Mhm.
should get up and shower, and then 3 hours later I haven't moved.
That executive dysfunction, man, I totally
Mhm.
get it.
And
Yeah.
like I understand that like eating better, eating before I have my coffee in the morning, like working out. I know that those things will help and lessen my symptoms. I've heard it all before. But the thing is, if you are busy, if you don't have the time and the mental energy to force yourself through that executive dysfunction every single day, you might need medication to jumpstart those good habits and those good routines.
Yep.
Anyway, we have really spiraled, guys.
That's
We
like,
Yeah, we
really
have.
yeah.
Okay, so what has everyone been reading?
oh yeah, that.
I read Five Survive by Holly Jackson. Holly Jackson is an auto-buy author for me. I love her. Um, didn't love that book as much as I loved A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Still enjoyed it. Very stressful. But then I read a book by the author for next month's book called I want to say it's The Hawthorne Legacy is that one. And that one also made me cry. And I was like, this isn't cool. But that was the one we had the whole like uncle question mark discussion about. So that was an enjoyable book because we were all like, is this weird? Turns out, guys, not weird. We're good. We're good. It's not weird.
I really liked when she was reading these books because I got all the input from it and it was very enjoyable. Our whole incest conversation was
Oh
great.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I read The Villains Duology by V.E. Schwab. I highly recommend it. It is so good. Read them like I would have read them in one sitting if life didn't shove its way through. But 5 stars, both of them, like immediately. Could not stop thinking about them. I also read a book called A Touch of Golden Madness on Kindle Unlimited. I wish I DNF'd it. It was not. Oh my god. Okay, so the way
The
it was
text.
written, the speech, they would cuss in almost every sentence and imply either make sex jokes, imply sex of sexual nature, whatever. It was as if a pre-tween, a pre-teen learned about sex and was told they were allowed to cuss.
No, it doesn't
was-
sound good.
Yeah, it was something, that's for sure. The storyline itself could have been good. I got about 80% of the way and texted Abby and I was like, I wish I DNF'd this, but now I have to finish it. I'm 80% of the way through.
No, you can always DNF. I DNF'd a book literally on the last page. Like I've just never read the last page.
See, the
Like,
thing
you can
is,
I'm just like, I'm done with this.
someone said that the end of the book gave Sarah J. Maas vibes. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm 80% of the way through. I want to know what that meant. It did not.
Yeah.
I was disappointed. This one book YouTuber I've been watching, she gave it 5 stars. And I'm like, how did we read the same book? So I don't
Right
recommend
time,
it.
right place.
Reading is subjective.
Yeah, so I don't recommend that.
guess.
But yeah,
I haven't read anything.
Me neither.
That is okay.
Have you watched any TV shows that are
Yes.
bookish?
I've
that we
I've
should
watched
watch?
I've watched probably not, but mostly like a few like anime series here or there. I've mostly been doing like horror movies. Oh, if you so I do have 2 recommendations. If you haven't
Yes,
seen Three
please.
Body Problem yet,
Oh,
No.
so good. I've heard it's
if you
so good.
haven't
Look at
seen Three Body Problem, see
Okay.
it. It's so it's so good that it literally like has a mathematic formula in it that there's like no solution for that people have actually been doing in real life, and it's really cool. Like the
See,
base concept is really cool.
you lost me at math though, is the
Oh
problem.
no,
Same.
no, don't worry about like it. So there's basically, this isn't really a spoiler, but there's like a planet in which there are three suns that rotate around it. And
Right.
when those suns are all there, it's the three body problem because it's three suns. When the three suns are all in alignment, it basically completely destroys the planet. Or
Okay.
destroys enough people that there's barely any people left on the planet and they have to restart their civilization all over again. And it is how to save that civilization is the
Okay.
problem.
Okay.
That's why it's
And
like
then
a physics slash math problem, and there's like all of the Earth scientists are working on it in the series. That's a really huge simplification of what this story is about.
yeah.
Yeah, I got the book at like a library book sale and I just haven't read it yet because I felt very much
Borrow
like
it when you're done.
almost like Dune. Like, I don't know if I can bite off that much intense whatever, but
Yeah,
all right, I'll have to
yeah.
watch it.
Definitely watch the
Three.
series. But
Okay.
uh mm, trigger warning for the boat scene.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Cool.
That's all I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah, the boat scene. That's
The
a good
boat
point.
scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge trigger warning.
If you want something more fun, it's like
Mhm.
it's been it's a movie. I loved it. I loved it. I don't want to say what exactly it is. There's a specific thing that happens that just made the entire movie 10 times better for me because you go in it's bodies, bodies, bodies. It's like
Oh,
a
I loved
slasher,
that
quote
movie.
unquote.
I watched
The
that.
Was
That was
so
end,
good.
funny.
the very end, the very
Was
end,
so great.
the trope that happens at the
Yeah,
very
yeah,
end
yeah.
flipped the entire movie on its head and made it 10 times better. But like it's like there's a lot of I thought it was just going to be a dig at Gen Z, like Gen Z banter and like stuff like that, and there was some of that, but the way that they did it was so funny. And then just like I said, you get to the end of the movie, the entire movie gets flipped on its head, and
Yeah.
it's such a satisfying version of like that trope. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So those I can recommend those two.
Okay, cool.
Um,
You go ahead.
oh, okay. I've been No, you go ahead. My brain just lost everything.
Okay, I read a book that I really liked this last month. It was called Looking for Jane by Heather Marshall. It's not something I would have picked up probably on my own. I was reading it with some people I knew, and it's about basically it's like three stories kind of intertwined, but it's kind of about not kind of, it's about the underground like abortion access network, the Janes, basically. So one part of the story takes place in like 1961. It starts there. This girl is really young. She's pregnant. Her family she's unwed. They send her off to like one of those homes for unwed mothers. Then the next story is about a young woman in like the late 70s, early 80s, and she gets involved with the Jane Network and helping them. And then the last story is about a woman in 2017 who's trying to get pregnant and how the stories kind of intertwine. And it's just about like motherhood and like when, choosing to be a mother or to not be a mother, and it's about women's choice. Parts of it were like infuriating because, yeah, this really did happen. Like it's fiction, but absolutely this happened to so many people and it's just absurd. And I just think in the political climate it was a good book. It was really good. I recommend it. And then the lighter book I reread a duology this last month, and it starts with, let me make sure I have that right. I gotta scroll down a little bit. It's There Are No Saints, and then the second book is There Is No Devil by Sophie Lark. And this is a serial killer romance. It's great.
Aww.
Yeah. And he's like a legit serial killer. It's fantastic. But it's also like very like they're all like competing artists. It's great.
I'm going to Amazon.
I
Yeah.
ordered the first one, so
Yeah.
in my
Like, right
cart
this second?
on my be here on Friday. Yep. That one's happening.
What's
Yeah,
it called?
absolutely. The first one is There Are No Saints, and the second is There Is No Devil.
Thank you.
Yes, you're looking it up right now to order it.
He's like, in the credit
The
goes, yeah.
two sides
It's
of our
on-
of our book club. The
Aaron,
one
while
who
you're-
orders
while
the
you're out there,
political
can you
abortion
text the
book
link?
the moment that it's
Yeah.
mentioned, and the other
I'll send you the link. Don't worry.
Again, there are two wolves, okay? They're inside of you. This is our
Yeah.
book. our
Oh,
next
yeah,
picture or
the
something.
cover? Heck yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, exactly. That
Yep,
one's on Kindle
That's
Unlimited.
literally Nicole's book
Damn
right
it.
there.
I really
As long
just
as
need
it
to
has
give
a
that to
shirtless
you for
man
him.
on it, Nicole's buying it.
Hey, I also read the political abortion book and liked it. I have
Oh,
layers.
guys, I have been reading a book.
Tell us.
What book?
It's called Eat, Pray, as in like pray, love.
Oh.
And
Is
it's
it like
a
a vampire or something?
it's
It's-
probably Omegaverse.
no.
It's
Cannibals?
not.
Don't you judge me, okay? No, it's not Omegaverse. Not now. Maybe later. But no, it's a were-panther romance.
Love that.
I thought it was gonna be werewolf. It was not. Anyway, if you read it,
Yeah.
it's horrific. I got it for $4 at a used
You're
bookstore.
do you remember going to Dollar Tree in like
Oh
Lakeport
God, yeah.
and finding a book by an author named the pen name of the author was Nina Bangs, and it was about the last were saber and how rare she was,
So
and she
bad.
couldn't transform even in front of other like wares because she's so rare that they also would go after her just like the humans would. And yeah, the author was named Nina Bangs, and I got it at Dollar Tree.
She is just so not like other girls.
I know.
She's so not like other girls.
No.
The other girls don't like her.
That's right.
Literally, like the first time these two people meet, which apparently like one of them's the werepanther, the other one is this daughter of this society that hates it's like Romeo and Juliet, okay? Like he hates supernatural things, whatever. Anyway, the first time they meet, they get to like third base, okay? Like I feel like out of nowhere, they're in a garden outside and he's just like roping her titties. So I was like, okay,
Robert vibes.
that's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah,
I mean, like,
I don't
is
know.
there heat involved? This is all lining up for
There's
me.
no heat involved yet. I'll keep you updated. I don't know.
Okay, excellent. I want updates.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Bullet points.
Okay.
Oh,
Very descriptive bullet points.
I have been reading, let's see, I read after the Cerulean Sea because I read books between this and the last one. I don't want to go back that far. After the Cerulean Sea, I read The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black, who I am convinced 110% that woman is fae. She is. You cannot tell me otherwise. She is fae.
From the Holly Black font
She's
TikTok.
from Fairyland. She's clearly from Fairyland, and she's just writing these stories about, humans she knew that she encountered. She's fae. Can't tell me otherwise.
Didn't she
Anyway.
actually like surgically point her ears?
Well, who says it was surgically done?
Okay, quote unquote surgically.
Allegedly.
Allegedly surgically.
They weren't always like this, I swear.
Swear to God, do you want my receipts?
She just dropped her glamour. That's all. You
I
cannot.
went to Dr. Malibu. Isn't that like the surgical?
Anyway, so that immediately got 5 stars. I read it in like a day. I think I started it at like 6 p.m. one day and then finished it like, I don't know, by noon the next day. Super fast read. And then the next book I read was Scythe by, I don't remember the
I
author.
think I have it on my shelf. Hold on. It's towards the end of the alphabet. I can't read it from here.
It's
next
on
to
one of
Adam
my
Silvera
shelves,
on my
but I'm
shelf.
not gonna go look for it. It's called Scythe.
So good.
It was a free recommendation. Although actually I think I just saw that in the bookstore and was like, I should buy this.
Yeah,
So,
no, Scythe is one that like I think people just know of because it's Neil Shusterman.
Mm. There
And
we go.
and it's gotten like awards and stuff for it. So,
Yeah.
but
It
I
was-
recommended she should read it like now.
Yeah, because I don't even remember what I was saying. I was saying something about like I have to do something, but I'd much rather read or something
You
like
asked
that.
like between two books, and I put in all caps scythe, 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 or something like that. I love that series. Oh my god, I could go off on it, but I'm not gonna.
Anyway, so I read that. Very good. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. Might have been 5. I don't remember.
Keep reading the series.
I read too many books at the same time.
Oh, I do the same thing. I had like 5 going this last week, and I was like,
Right.
okay, I gotta narrow this down.
And it was problematic because I read something between Scythe and the Naturals, and what was it?
On your book tracking stuff, you said you had like 4 apps.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I'm on live.
Oh, right.
I can't look at my phone. Anyway, I read something else that I remember really liking, but can't remember what it was.
Wait, I can find
on.
you, I think. If
Oh.
it was on Storygraph. me see.
Yes.
I found you.
To actually join Fable. I've been
Kingdom of Flesh and Fire.
there we go.
That's what I'm currently reading. It's a
Okay.
that's an audiobook.
The Darkest Part of the Forest.
You just talked about that.
It's In His Kiss. How to Swindle a Scoundrel. All the Bridgerton books.
Maybe I hallucinated that other book.
Wasn't there something about
But you better
tea?
write it.
I'm also currently reading You Can't Spell Treason Without Tea. That's a gay sapphic cozy fantasy novel. Very much in line with my cozy fantasy novels, very D&D coded. And I am reading that to Mikey. We're almost done with it. Almost. But
Ooh.
I've gotten out of reading every night because my voice hurts. It hurts. But I have been having fun doing the voices. And then I finished next month's book.
Already?
Oh my gosh.
Hey, that's a good sign though.
Is it a good sign?
Yeah, she told me it was a good sign.
Oh.
I picked it up like 2 days ago.
But then she said, I'm not saying anything else. You read the book. And I said, okay, I have to wait for Abby to get here.
Yeah, I had a couple of things that I was gonna say, but we're just gonna have to wait until you guys all read the book in next month.
Tune in next month.
I have a lot of things to say about this.
Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Good thing I have a 14-hour road trip ahead of me Friday and Saturday.
You will consume it in no time. It's very good.
I can't wait. I can't
Very
wait.
quick
I'm
read.
excited. This has been on the
If
shelf for
you
years.
like Criminal Minds, you will enjoy this book.
Me and Bree bring forensic science majors.
But have an open mind.
Okay.
Okay.
But no, I've been excited to
Alrighty,
read this book
guys.
for a while. So
Same.
Me, but with December's book.
What's December's book?
Red Rising. I've had like 3 different friends like rant at me about the fact that I need to read it, and it's like a 6-book series.
it's been all over my TikTok recently. So I'm
I
excited.
just saw a quote on TikTok and I was like, oh, that's dark.
Yep, it is dark.
Yeah.
It is a dark fantasy novel. I just like knowing what I know about it, it very much gives like Sanderson vibes in terms of like that, but like maybe a bit darker. Like Sanderson vibes, but maybe like closer to like Warhammer horror. A little bit.
Okay.
Okay, I'm excited. Yeah, no, it's been all over my TikTok. So
Heck yeah.
and everyone's liked it.
Alrighty, you guys have a good one.
You too.
Hey,
Yeah.
bye.
Good night.
Goodbye. So unserious. Yeah.
Okay, any last minute thoughts or anything before I stop this?
No, I don't
Okay,
think so.
well-
I think that we should all plan, if we have time at some point, we can do like a secondary episode or something.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
down. And we all get drunk as heck.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.